Hello everyone and welcome back to the greatest tournament there ever was and will be. I'm of course only kidding, that goes to the Candidates Tournament of 1959, but this one is definitely, well, it could be a close second, especially if the players continue playing like this. It's Liren versus Rapport, like I said, round 3 of the Candidates Tournament 2022. It's an unbelievable game where an unbelievable blunder occurred, or maybe not a blunder, yes, a blunder, but even greater than the blunder was the opportunity that was missed to punish this blunder. So I don't want to spoil too much. Let's dive straight into it, and you guys will have a nice opportunity to improve on the play that was that actually happened in the game. So it's Ding with the white pieces, and he opens with d4. We have knight to f6 by Rapport, c4, g6, knight to c3, and d5. We have the Gruenfeld defense. C captures, knight captures, and e4. We go for the main line of the exchange variation. Knight captures, b captures, and bishop to g7. You guys see this all the time, especially if you like, for example, MVL's games. We have bishop to c4 and now c5, striking in the center. Knight to e2, and here knight to c6. So just putting more pressure on that d4 square. Bishop to e3, and here both players just castle. We have b6 by Rapport, and now rook to c1. We always say that it makes sense to move this rook. Sometimes you put the rook on b1, but now that b6 was played, the rook is better placed on c1, so you don't have to worry about this bishop. So bishop to b7, and here we have bishop to b5. Interestingly, Ding already had this position in the 2018 Tata Steel India Rapid Tournament against Pentala Harikrishna, only he had it with the black pieces, and Harikrishna played queen to d2 here, which is in fact the strongest move recommended by the engine, but Ding got a fairly easy draw in that game. So here Ding instead goes for bishop to b5. It's the engine's second favorite move, but Ding thinks that it will pose more problems for Rapport. So rook to c8, continuing development, queen to d2 now, and c captures on d4. We have c captures on d4, and now, like I said, there is a game that reached this exact same position by none other than Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, who plays the most Gruenfeld defenses pretty much, of all the players, where e6 was played by him. He played it against Yuan Yi in the FIDE Grand Prix this year in Belgrade, in Serbia, and that game ended in a draw. However, here we have queen to d6 by Rapport, and it is now, as of move 14, that we have a completely new game. So how do you continue here? He's trying to get Ding to push d5 so he can play knight to e5, and obviously this will be very good for him. He prepared this, but the Ding just goes rook f to d1. Continuing development before deciding on any pawn pushes. Your center here is beautiful, you don't want to ruin it too fast. So queen to b4, offering a queen trade, and just queen d3, defending the bishop and avoiding the queen trade. We have e6, and now Ding starts pushing with h4. He wants to play h6, maybe h5, maybe open up the position, maybe push the pawn all the way to h6. All depends on what Richard does. And here you will probably see h5. If someone goes h4 nowadays in 2022, you see h5 immediately. And while this is playable, Rapport goes for rook f to d8. And this allows Ding to go for a most unusual idea. Here Ding abandons the center. He plays bishop to g5. And he is correct, definitely. It is the strongest move recommended by the engine. So now Rapport can start capturing on d4, but it means Ding will grab the rook here. You don't have to ask Rapport twice to sacrifice a little bit of material. You could also play pawn to f6, but that's just ruining your king side for seemingly nothing. So instead, just knight captures on d4, and this is where the fun really begins. We have bishop captures on d8, and now even though it looks like you have some, not right now, but rook captures on d8, and even though it looks like you have some discoveries towards the white queen, Ding says not to worry. I just continue pushing with h5. There really aren't any useful discoveries. Also, the other thing you might consider is bishop to a6. This looks like a really fun move. Point is that after black makes a move, let's say queen b2, puts more pressure on this knight on e2. King f1, defending the knight. Now we capture here. Let's say bishop captures, queen captures. Now we can play something like pawn to b5. We disconnect the queen's defense of the knight here. So now we are threatening to capture here. But now let's say knight to g1. e1, and it's a really funny looking position where white is better, but black has a very active position. For example, you go after the pawn, we're going to play g3 and so on. So this is one way to do it, but we are not engines, we don't just play engine moves like that. So Ding continues pushing like a normal human. So h5, we have bishop to e5 by Rapport, and now pawn to a4, defending that bishop. So now the queen can move, and here we have king to g7. The safest way to play this for Rapport would be just to trade everything. Knight captures with check, queen captures, rook captures on d1, rook captures, and now king to g7. However, in the game, he decided to go king to g7 right away, which is a cooler way to play chess, leaving more material on the board. But now after king to f1, how do you continue the game? Now there's a problem. Not if you ask Rapport. He says this is exactly the same, and I can still capture on e2, even though it doesn't come with check, and that's exactly what he played. He played knight captures on e2 here, and now Ding's position is completely winning. However, it is not easy to see why. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the only winning idea for Ding while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing that, again, the only winning move is the obvious one and the one that was not played in the game. So for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen captures rook on d8. It seems like such a reasonable move to play. Why wouldn't you play this? But that's what Ding decided. He decided not to play this, but still we're going to show how complicated it is. Now, why can't black just capture on c1? The problem is if knight captures on c1, there is again only one winning idea for Ding, and most likely the one that Ding missed, and that is queen to g5. And now again, you might think, is this really so strong? The answer is yes, it definitely is, because now you're just threatening pawn to h6 check, king goes back, and we deliver checkmate with rook to d8. So we have to stop this. Also, the knight is still hanging, the bishop is still hanging, so how can we defend this with black? Well, we're gonna play bishop to c7. We have to prevent the rook from infiltrating, but now just h6 with check, king to g8, and now queen to f6, threatening checkmate, queen to f8, blocking this, or rather guarding against checkmate, and now rook to d7. And now one of the bishops will fall. You can't really move the bishop anywhere because then rook to d8, so there really isn't a good move here for black. Once black plays something, let's say knight b3, we just capture on c7, and that's it. Let's say knight d2 check. You have some moves here, captures here, attacks the queen. We're just going to move the queen, and that's pretty much it. Once the bishop moves, because the bishop is attacked, you can't move the queen because this is still checkmate. So whatever you make, just rook to c8, and that's it. Queen captures, let's say, and of course queen to g7 is checkmate. So that's the line that Ding most likely missed, but of course we have to show the other one as well in case that's not what actually happened in Ding's mind. The problem is, okay, you don't have to play knight captures on c1. What about queen captures on e4? This is also very scary, just threatening queen captures on g2. Again, not a problem, just bishop captures on e2. We actually allow queen captures on g2, and now after this is played, you have to calculate all of the checks, and it's definitely not an easy thing to do, but it is winning. And it's not like it's beyond Ding's ability to calculate precisely. So and he didn't really invest all that much time in this position. So king to e1, now queen h1 check. Let's say we play king to d2. We don't mind. Okay, the bishops and the queen, it's an open board. The king on d2. Let's say bishop f4 check, king to c3. We're still attacking the queen. Queen to c6 with check, king to b3. Now we can grab the rook, bishop captures on c1, but now queen to d4 with check. And now there isn't a good way to play this, because if you move the king, just h captures on g6, and there's not all that much you can do here. It's a really tough position. If you capture here, then even queen to h8 can be played. If you play f captures here, then queen to h4 with check is very scary. King to g7, now queen to e7 with check, king to h6, queen to sorry, not f7, queen to f8 with check, and now finally after king to g5 we can activate the rook with rook to g1, and that's it. Once you move the king, let's say king to h4, you don't have any other squares, as the bishop also covers the light square. So king here, queen to e7 check, king h3, we're gonna capture here with check, and that's it. Only move is bishop h6, and this will be checkmate. So you can't really do that. The king cannot go here. The only way to play this is to block with f6, and now we just trade. Queen to d7 with check. So of course, if you trade, rook captures with check, picks up the bishop on b7. So king to h6 would be played, let's say captures, and now we just trade. Queen captures, bishop captures, and rook captures on c1, and you are up a full rook. Yes, black has 3 extra pawns, but it's still a full rook. So of course, white will be completely winning here. So that's why queen captures on d8 is just crushing for Ding. However, Ding played queen captures on e2, and his position is still better, but not nearly as good as it would be if he captured on d8. So here, rook captures on d1 with check, rook captures, and now pawn to a6, attacking the bishop, giving Ding further chances. Here, just the bishop to d4 is the way to go. Yes, you're still down the exchange, but once you close the position with bishop d4 and e5, there's just not all that much to look for here for white. For example, queen c4, you can even trade here, doesn't really matter. Captures, e5, and it will be incredibly difficult for white to make a breakthrough here. The rook just doesn't have open lines, and the rook really needs open lines to be a strong piece. So instead, Rapport played a6, and this again gives Ding some chances. Bishop captures on a6, we have bishop captures, queen captures, and now he picks up the pawn on e4, but now Ding has a couple of very good options here, but he plays rook to e1, and this is the worst one. What you want to play here is just trade once, captures, and play queen to e2. The point is, and it's of course now that you know about it, it makes sense that we cannot trade queens. The position would be winning for white. So once the queen moves and you have to move somewhere to defend the bishop, now we just play king to g1, and there's no good way for black to set up a barrier. Black needs to have this bishop on d4 and the pawn on e5 to make the rook useless, because the bishop here guards the pawn here, the pawn here guards the bishop, and the rook will not be able to defeat the bishop basically. But now you don't have a way to do this. If bishop to c3, we just attack the bishop, offer a queen trade, and now if you play a queen to f6, you still can't play e5 because the bishop would hang. If you play queen e5, you can't push e5 because there's a queen there, and it's just very, very difficult for black to find moves here, and here Ding would have excellent winning chances. However, he played rook to e1, and this is now much different. Now comes queen to d4, queen to e2, attacking the bishop, now bishop to f6. We have h captures, and now queen to e4, offering a queen trade and defending the pawn here. Now queen to d2. And here, after rook to e2, we have queen to d1 check. Rook to e1, queen to d2. So how do you make progress here? G3 was played, but now bishop to d4. And now bishop to d4 comes with tempo, as Rapport is threatening checkmate here. So Ding had to defend, but now just queen to c3. We have rook to d1, but now queen to c6. Again, with a very tricky idea, not just attacking the pawn, but also if rook captures here, then queen to h1 is just checkmate. A very, very nice find, this queen to c6 idea by Rapport. You don't have to play it. You could do it the boring way. You could play e5, the move that we've discussed, and now the rook will just not have anything to do. But queen to c6 is much, much cooler. So here, after queen to c6, we have queen to g4 now with a double attack here, also freeing up the e2 square for the king, but now just e5. And now there's really no way to do anything here. The bishop guards both of these pawns, and there's no way to make progress here for Ding. So Ding just gave up. He played rook captures on d4, and this is basically a draw. For captures with check, king to g8, and now he forces a draw, as I believe he was very much disgusted with himself. King to g8, and he was in this position on move 40 upon reaching time control that Ding Liren and Richard Rapport agreed to a draw in round 3 of the FIDE Candidates Tournament 2022. So really an amazing turn of events here. Ding missing a brilliant opportunity to bounce back in a tournament with a victory against Rapport. It's just I don't know if you guys remember in the previous maybe not in the previous, but maybe 2 videos ago, I mentioned that Caruana and the Ding are the players that play the most complicated games that can be calculated. And here Ding had a position, really that fits his style, where you just have have to brutally calculate everything and just force a win. And he got that, but he just wasn't able to do it. And he didn't spend all that much time trying to do it. It's just that his Spidey-Sense didn't go off, and that's that's a big problem, as this was a great opportunity for him to bounce back. But also this is a great opportunity for Rapport, as he doesn't lose and he just continues the candidates on a high note. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Ding will go into a rest day feeling not all that rested, I imagine. So hopefully he gets some rest. I would like to thank Andrew Lastova, Johan, Derek King, Aravind Kumar Vendeli, and for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the candidates until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.